Welcome to the Texas Secretary of State Elections Division.
Good afternoon, elections.
This is Joe.
Hello, Joe. It's Adrian Heath calling.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Very well, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine.
I was calling back again, just chasing a question I had about another opinion.
To intrude into someone's personal judgment about the place that they cleave to, since it's be presumptuous of us to say that you don't cleave to a place because you haven't proven your loyalty to it firmly enough. Alaska, meanwhile, has really elaborate rules for residents because every year Alaska residents get an oil and gas royalty check.
The royalty checks, yeah. Yeah, so they really want to know who they're giving money to rather than who they're taking it from.
Oh, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, when money's involved, you become much more interested in whether people really live inside your boundaries or not.
Well, that sounds like it fits the bill in our case too.
Yeah.
Really. I always wondered what the Secretary of State thought about the decision of the court in our thing, because he said that we'd obtained our voter registration fraudulently, which I just think was not true.
No, and that the decision was contrary to decades of court decisions about residency issues, and it was really an outlier. Basically, the way I read it was, developer is mad that their nose has been tweaked by some people who are protesting the profoundly undemocratic way that property taxes are imposed in Texas. And their embarrassment is such, and the fact that money is involved is such, that they call up their best buddy, somebody who has close political ties to them, and say, hey, Judge, we need you to make an example of these people.
I really believe that myself, actually.
Yeah, so utterly politically motivated, intellectually bankrupt decision that couldn't be reconciled with the way we generally view residents. Because, honest to God, what about some poor person? I mean, honest to God, what is it about you that they would say, oh, when he says that's his residence, he's just lying? Excuse me? I mean, to accuse somebody of fraud goes beyond just saying they've misunderstood or that there's been some confusion on the law. I mean, most prosecutors won't touch a residency dispute with a 10-foot pole because they know that they're going to lose. So to go so far in a civil case as to basically say, oh gosh, developer, this is just awful. I can't believe these master criminals managed to break into this hotel and claim residence. By not only am I throwing out the election, which, excuse me, isn't there a presumption in favor of a valid election and upholding the election results? Need to be extraordinary facts in order to...
I did not know that.
Yeah, to just set aside an election. Oh, say no more. Your election was tainted by the wrong kind of people. we know how exactly your election was supposed to turn out because obviously your election was just a sham.
Yeah.
Just a fiction created by the way that the state fails to process land development.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God
well,
forbid.
I've done, what I've done is I've done an open records request to get the records of the very original first residents and voters in that road utility district. I'm going to, they're going to get them out of storage, and I'm going to go down there and make copies of everything. And, I think that's going to be valid in our cases. The original residents, once we find out who they are, they were just there for probably, we'll see, maybe a week or two.
Right.
They did their work for the developer and goodbye Charlie,
Yeah.
And that was in 1991 and they still don't, they now have their other developer friend who's the voter that they've acknowledged, but, it's really not voter controlled, it's developer.
No, they became complacent because for years and years, Houston area real estate attorneys would give their clients bad advice. Say, don't worry a second about how you're going to finance this sewer line because all we'll have to do is have a, quote, election, unquote, and then you'll be able to do an assessment on all this commercial land. I mean, what's unusual about this particular development is that at one time it had some residential land and got rezoned for purely commercial use. And normally it's unimproved rural land that has nothing on it at all, and then gets turned into a residential territory.
No, but they literally carved this right out from the heart of the residential area,
Right. To go street by street, house by house, carefully excising any voters.
Any possibility of a voter, Or they thought, anyway, I mean, even the voters that were there before us, that had been there for a long time, I've got an email from one of their attorneys saying, that he just questioned even their validity,
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody is eligible unless they give them a dispensation,
Right. They're presumptively not eligible unless they've been vetted by the developer and given the okay and the secret handshake. But I mean, that's what made one of the kind of snotty arrogance of the decision that bothered me so much. No, you're not the right sort of person. We only wanted this election to be the right sort of person election. You haven't been vetted and approved by the person who stands to win the most money out of this. And thought, dirty judge, dirty developer, dirty everybody. If you're that scared, if you create such a powerful incentive to run a dirty election, then you should ask, why are you developing that land that way in the first place?
Well, the cronyism's pretty thick around here, I reckon. But, hey, look, thanks for listening to me, and for your insight. It's really appreciated.
Oh, sure. And I hope things work out.
Well, we haven't really been to court yet. We've had some court dates and this and that, and I don't know if you know, our case ended up in Judge Fred Edwards' court, who is a pretty hard-nosed guy too, and part of the establishment, in my opinion. But a funny thing happened was my attorney ran against him for the Ninth District Court and won. And so, and so we did have a recusal hearing because he was running against him, and he wasn't my first attorney, so Judge Underwood denied it. Apparently there's something that's got to be the original attorney for recusal. So that was denied, but we're appealing it, and then my attorney, Kelly Case, will be on the bench in January, and the appeal will take that long, so Fred Edwards won't even hear anything to do with the case. And so that's much better, I think. And, we'll see. I believe we've got a good case, and I believe we're going to prevail. So.
Yeah.
But I am, I'm still digging up, looking for different aspects and things to researching and that, and we're finding good stuff, I think. So, anyway, appreciate your thoughts on that. Hey, thanks. I kept you on the phone for a whole hour, I think, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, I didn't have to talk to somebody about a local option liquor election. Well, and good luck.
Thanks, Mr. Coyote. I appreciate it.
Oh, you too. Okay. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Youthful appearance.
Yeah,
I'm
so when
sure,
you go dancing, you don't have to get carded.
I'm sure one day that'll change. And no, I'm 31, so I'm a little bit older than I look. Most people say 16, so
That'll be a blessing as you get older.
Right, we'll see how long it lasts. My dad tells me one day I'm going to wake up and appear like I'm 40. So I tell him, well, maybe I'll be 50 when that happens.
That's
so it really
right.
won't matter.
You've got one on everyone. This is Miss Suzanne Rogers and Jack Curtis and Judy Hannes and Nancy Loring.
Yeah.
And we're just citizens trying to do a good job, and we're just concerned because you called Monday and said you didn't see any reason why Mr. Spate should not be accountable for how he filled out his application. And I just wanted to lay out what we had, and then you can tell us about yours, because you have a copy, I'm sure, of the sworn statement stating he'd been there 6 months.
Sure.
And here's a copy of the agent's report, and it states that the house was not listed. Let me see where my notes are. It was not listed until June the 2nd, available June the 25th, and he moved in June the 27th. So if I go by November the 22nd, that's 4 months and 25 days. But he said he was there 6 months, and I think that's the principle that we're looking at is should he not have known that he was putting the incorrect information on there? As you mentioned, someone named Jessica was prosecuted,
right,
for basically maybe the same application thing. I don't remember. But and then on this one, he had written down that he was at 10 Tanglebrush way back in May for a voter's registration, but it wasn't available till he didn't move in until June the 27th. This one, the water was turned on June the 27th also. So
you're saying he lived there a month and a half without any water?
With no water.
And no water and sewer.
Yeah, that's not likely.
So
no.
But my,
not in this
my
country right now.
concern is, should he not be held accountable for his information that he puts out? Because it kind of throws the citizens, as a loop to know what to expect,
right,
from someone running for political office.
I think another big concern is if one person is allowed to do this, would we let everybody else do the same thing?
Right, equal justice for equal.
Let me, and I know we might not always be on the same page. Let me explain a few things to you. First and foremost, I agree 100% with your issues. Okay, we want to get into politics or whatnot. I am all for accountability, public service,
honesty,
integrity. Amongst all public officials, period, whether they're in our county or work for, so I get it. I'm with you 100% on that. However, my job requires that I look at things in comparison to what I can prove, what the laws state, and that sort of thing. That's what I have to do. Okay. And the key term on this particular application is the word residence. Okay. If you could tell me what that means, I'd give you $1 million, because the courts have interpreted it 1,000 different ways. It could be. It doesn't have to be where you live. It doesn't have to be where you get water. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be even based upon what we call intent, where I'm intending my residence to be, if I have some connection there. We've had case law that come down to hold that to be true. It's ridiculous. I mean,
but
it
is
should
that
be
not
where
the same thing that you did to Jessica? Because she did not live there 2 years, so how did y'all determine that was not her residency? Because he's got homestead exemptions in Alden Bridge, so you pay your homestead and get all of your...
Right, and again, that's not indicative of what someone's residence is. It should be.
So then the law needs to be changed to
Absolutely.
define what residence is.
Absolutely.
So is anybody going to work on that?
Well, we have, through the Jessica Siegel thing, amongst others, the Attorney General's office handles a lot of this type of voter issue stuff.
Yeah, I called them.
Yeah, they're really the primary. They have a whole division set out to voter fraud and different things. And this issue has come up not only in our county, but probably majority of counties throughout the state. I know they had an issue in Galveston County where a judge was, similar deal. He actually ran. He won. Was elected to office. And then 6 months in, it was determined that they found that he had another house where he was actually living most of his time, but he claimed that he was living at a business or something within the jurisdiction. It got appealed. They tried to remove him from office, went all the way through the court system, and they said, no, that's where his residence was. He gets to stay.
Well, and
it's
I
just
think,
really weird.
And I think that's what I was concerned about, too, and a lot of us residents were, because he lives in Precinct 2, and he only rented this for a year, so he can go back there and live and still sit on the Commissioner's Court. So I told the little man at the newspaper, which he wouldn't print anything in the newspaper, that I said, well, we'll have to beat him at the ballot box then.
Sure.
But I still think, and deep down in my heart, that if you're going to prosecute Jessica and go pick her up and put her in jail, why did we not follow through on something,
because
even if he has to pay a fine or something?
But I can't do that. I can't just. It's like comparing apples and oranges. The amount.
It was not the same?
No, it's not the same. It's
I
not
thought
the
she
same
claimed
at all.
residency for 2 years.
Right, she did.
And what did y'all prosecute her on?
Okay, Nancy, look, we've gone back and forth on the phone. Either you're going to let me explain, or the meeting's over. Okay, I want to try to explain the difference, but you don't give me any opportunity to talk.
At me as a senior citizen, think, if I don't say that right away, then I'll forget it. So I apologize.
I want y'all to have your forum, and I want everyone to talk, but I need to be able to explain the differences. Okay, you're not an attorney. Okay.
Well, what exactly is the difference then between her and him?
The biggest difference is, would it have mattered? Okay, would it have mattered had he been right or wrong? Okay, and again, we're dealing with the fuzzy issue of residence. Okay, she was down in Harris County, lived in Harris County down in Houston. Okay, and claimed that she lived up here. All right, and I don't have it in front of me. I brought his timeline, but if she lied in order to be in order to qualify to run, she had to lie.
She said she lived here, or she had a residence here.
She said she had a residence here. Okay.
Then again, you don't have to live with it.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, but that's what she claimed. If she wouldn't have lied on her application, and it's by like 6 months difference at least on what she put down, she would not have been eligible to run. Okay? One thing is different about this application is that even if he had put 4 months, or 3 months for that matter, actually 2 months, he could have put 2 months in district or precinct, he would have still been eligible to run for office.
He would?
Yes. Okay? And I have confirmed this more ways than I know how. But basically, it breaks down like this. Okay, May 10th, 2011, he signs his lease application, and I have that here. I don't know if y'all have that. This is his lease, or this is his actual lease. But he signs a lease application, okay, for the 10 Tanglewood. All right, May 11th is when he actually signs the lease. Okay, which is to start. He signs the lease May 11th, and the commencement date is June 1st, 2011. Okay, through June 1st, 2011. This is not accurate information. Okay, this is something that you're pulling off of HAR. I mean, it's not accurate.
Well, they've typed it in. Why wouldn't it be accurate?
Maybe at one point when they typed it in it was, but it was not updated to reflect the actual lease.
Well, when I went to the villager, the little man there said that he was waiting on the contract to come, and it came later. So
I don't know.
Neil DeBlair and Neil. Okay.
See, that's the thing. I don't operate on conspiracy theories. Okay, I'm looking at black and white
facts,
what I can prove in a courtroom, because courtroom doesn't revolve around conspiracy theories. So I can't put you on the stand and say, Nancy, why don't you tell us about what you think happened? I can't do that. That's not how our system works.
But we're not even thinking whenever, and we're not, and the residency thing you've brought up. But I think it's more important that he has signed it and had it notarized that he'd been there 6 months. I think that's being dishonest.
He said he had the residence for 6 months, not that he lived there. It's what you're.
Correct.
I think what this gentleman said.
But how could he? It wasn't even
times.
available till June the 2nd, even though he put May the 11th on here.
He still had at least.
Right. He had a lease agreement, and under the law, that would probably get him to where he needs to be for residency. We're not talking about where the person goes to bed each night. It's terrible.
That law does need to be changed.
It's ridiculous. It causes us more headache.
Fraud.
Then
it's fraud.
it is fraud, because nothing prevents
application.
someone from doing exactly what he did, which was to come in, rent a house, or even attempt to rent a house, and run for office in that. It's ridiculous.
And you shouldn't be having to deal with this.
No,
you should have the law changed.
Trust me. I mean,
it's wasting his time and the county's money.
If I could go and draft the law myself, I would. I mean, and we have our voice has been heard. Like I said, other counties this round have struggled with this problem. And eventually, I do foresee it changing.
What can we do when we leave here to start the process of change?
You can call your legislatures, Kevin Brady. You can call Tommy Williams. You can call. I mean, your legislatures need to be. But let me tell you though, they're not in jumping up and down to change this law. Okay, you have to understand, because a lot of the people that you would be thinking would change it, the votes that you need, they are running for office based upon doing the same thing. It's ridiculous. I mean, so that's why it hasn't happened as quickly as it should have many, many years ago. This has been a problem for a long time.
Do you see it ever getting corrected?
Well, you know, again, I hope, I mean, with people, you know, and I don't want to get my personal preference, but with people like the Tea Party system, where you have some people in that are not career politicians that want to do the right thing, that's what it's going to take. I mean, but anyone who has benefited from this fuzziness is not going to jump up and down to change it. And that's unfortunate, and it's been like that for...
I was told that by our attorney one time, and he told me, he said, something was said about the law, and he said, well, who makes the law? He said, a lot of times these lawmakers will make the law and put little things like this in it so that they are allowed to circumvent it.
Yeah.
Because
and he said it don't really pertain to them.
It's easy, because maybe like in his precinct where he lived, precinct 2, the commissioner is Doyle, I think. I mean, he saw the opening of Ed Chance leaving. Okay, well, he wants to run for office and be a commissioner. Well, what's the only alternative he can do? Well, he just has to go in and rent a place, or make some attempts to rent, and guess what? He gets to be on the ballot. Okay, it's ridiculous. Okay,
it's not justice that is not evenly spread out.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm in total agreement with you, but where we disagree, I think, is what you want me to do and what I can legally do, and I cannot.
Oh, I don't think. You know, you're right. I guess I wanted some accountability.
Trust
you know,
me.
and
Trust me. I'm with you 100%, and I believe that, you know, there's another power that administers justice, and that's what occurred in this campaign. But even then, even saying that, you know, I have to look at it from, we have different burdens. You've probably heard burden of proof and beyond a reasonable doubt and whatnot. For me to even take forward a allegation, I have to have some basis to where I have a good shot at winning. I mean, is what it comes down to. And I can't run somebody through the mud just because I think he was trying to circumvent the system, which he probably was. I still have to be able to prove that. And that's,
so the paper trail doesn't
slander.
circumvent it, right? The paper trail doesn't prove anything.
I just don't think it does. I don't think it gets us there. I mean, like, you know, because, and again, because even if he had put down the correct amount, he still would have been eligible to run for office. There's
Really?
nothing that would prevent him because of the fuzzy, crazy things that happened this term. He had to have filed, or he had to have been living. Here,
Well, even if he moved in November the 22nd, December, January, February, March, April, that's 5 months still.
Well, what would have been his intent to
I don't know.
falsify
I mean, I don't think that. I think that he thought probably that it was asking if at the time he would have had to live there for 6 months, because that is the requirement. That's the minimum. And so he thought that, well, I'll put 6 months down. I don't know.
So he didn't know the law, basically.
Well, I'm not going to say that. He may have been flat out trying
his
to...
intent was to lie and falsify.
Right.
He could have put down his office, though, as his other residence.
Yes, that's another issue we
And that would have
face.
been legal. He's been there for how many years?
Well, but how could that be a residence if you don't have a bed there and you can't sleep
Nothing
there?
says you have
That's
to have a bed
the
there.
saying.
Oh.
You don't have to have a bed there. It's.
When I was growing up, I
So
knew
it's
people living
not
in
very
the trap.
even.
It's not black and white.
Not
Let's,
black
you
and
know.
white. So the law's not applied evenly.
Yeah, so he has to have lived in the county 6 months prior to March 9th of 2012. That's the date that changed with all the we had that whole issue of redistricting. All the dates got pushed back.
Well, I called on that.
And he did.
Yeah, I called
did.
I called the elections department. I called Mr. Wilkerson, and they said, well,
They're all wrong.
they are.
Okay.
Oh, really?
And I've already had that problem. I already had that discussion with Wally. I've talked to him about it when we were facing the Jessica Siegel thing. He was relying on the Secretary of State's website, which was also wrong and had to be corrected. I mean, it got...
So then you went back to the federal government for the correction instead of the state?
No, the state... Well, the federal district court is what issued the timeline, okay? The state, on the front end, misinterpreted their dates, and that's what got everything incorrect on the website.
So then the state was subservient to the federal government
Correct.
rather than the state having their own entity for their...
No, absolutely. The federal government directed when the elections would take place, and yeah, I mean it's.
I mean, that's not the separation of state and federal government.
Yeah, like if you look at here, this is the correct version on their website. For a county commissioner, you have to live in the precinct 6 months, okay? And it's 6 months before March 9th of 2012, okay, if you're running for the Republican Party nomination, which he was. So that's the correct date, March 9th of 2012.
So the federal government changed it for the state then, because when I talked to
Correct.
the Attorney General's office, they said, it's up
Well, I don't
to
know
the
when you talked
Republican
to
chair. Oh, it's been here.
Because
I talked to the... and
it
he
might
said,
have been before the district court issued their
what was the date on that?
their dates.
Because when I called, they said, it's up to your county chair, and then Mr. Wilkerson said it stays the same.
Yeah, well, I don't know when you talked to him, and that may have been what he was relying on at the time. It changed so many times this year, but I stand, it has been decided in the courts. I have no doubt that this is the date. So that's the problem here, is that he could have put 1 month, or 2 months actually, let's see. If you say June 1st is the date, then he could have put 4 months here, and he could have put less than that. And he still would have been eligible to run for office. So it didn't really matter what he put there. Now,
Wow. And see, as a notary, I always want people to be honest when I'm notarizing their papers, and I just can't understand people not having the integrity to do
well,
that.
again, that's the one
it's
issue.
been on my heart, so...
I know. I mean, I understand. I understand your frustration, but I want you to understand that the
nothing's
Texas
been
Rangers
done.
worked this up.
Wendy.
When she did a good job. She tracked down what she could, and she turned over her report to us, and we sat down and talked about it. I mean, I don't, and we don't have the substantial evidence that we needed to conduct a criminal investigation or to indict him or anything like that.
So if it's not criminal, is it there's no other thing to go underneath, right? I mean, no other indictment to go underneath except the ethics.
The TEC, Texas Ethics Commission.
But he didn't get in office, so that's a blessing. Because I mean, if you start out this way, then you think, what is he going to do with our tax dollars down here, and who's going to influence him, and how is it going to be handled?
I didn't
And
vote
Is
for
he
him.
going to lie the whole way?
I live in precinct
that's right.
3.
Oh, do you?
I didn't vote for the guy.
Okay.
So I'm with you there. I haven't heard much. I mean, we're talking personal now, but I hadn't never heard much good about him in the first. I mean, so when I got this, I pursued it the best I can. I promise you that. We don't.
Well, we understand because we think really on the Jessica thing, eventually it'll go away too because of the residency thing.
She that's a different story because she literally had 0 ties to Montgomery County, and the only way she could have ran in Montgomery County is if she lied about her residency. I know it sounds the same, but it is a total different can of worms. It really is.
Well, it sounds the same because Kenny. I used to work with Kenny in the title agency and with the insurance with him and everything, and I have nothing against him. He's a nice, likable guy, but you gotta. You know, I grew up in, like I said, in the old school, and so I'm thinking, golly, this is not right what he did, and so. But I appreciate your time, Tyler.
Well, I can tell you that this issue, unfortunately, and you can start watching it now because you'll see it now that you notice it. People take advantage of it, and frankly, it needs to change. And I'm with you 100%. You know, we take everything case by case basis. And
is this my copy here?
Sure, I was going to give you one of those if you wanted it.
Sure. Because
Whenever all we can do is just try to keep an eye on people
and vote people.
Well, it won't do any good. We got to start calling the representatives.
Brett, yeah, I mean that's number
This
one.
is the
law
key.
needs to change. The second thing is we will, even though it's really not an easy thing to do, we will continue to monitor these types of complaints.
Well, and when they come up, yeah.
I mean, Brett Ligon has. Trust me, we have prosecuted more public officials and whatnot in his 4 years of office. We're not scared to do that, but at the same time, we take an oath that we will do that only in cases where we feel confident that a crime has taken place that we can prove. And that's the standard we have to go by. If I could just go at him and have him pay a fine or whatnot, I would. But that's just not.
And if you see him sometimes, because I don't work with him around by him anymore, but just say, Kenny, the next time, be honest pay attention to what you're signing,
Sure.
But you can't say that either.
He probably won't.
Again, that's slanderous.
No, just to be honest on, no, not really.
That's a fine line.
No,
just to be honest with you.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, because it gives us a mixed signals to the to the residents and to the taxpayers.
I know, and a lot of people they don't necessarily understand what all goes on, but it's difficult, and I feel confident that we gave everything a good thorough review, and based upon the facts and the law, and we came to the conclusion that we did. But I can assure you that that's the only reason that we did that. Is we're not bound by anybody in this office, and if you look at Brett's track record, you'll believe that. I mean.
Well, and I was kind of flabbergasted about the federal government coming in and telling the state,
it's crazy.
that this is what. Yeah, because when I called the Attorney General's way.
That's just like the illegal deal I was talking about earlier. As far as illegal immigration, the federal government comes up and says, tells Arizona, you can't do anything about it.
It's the same thing. Voter ID, no, you can't do that.
It's state law, but we're overriding you.
I know, but they shouldn't.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's scary.
Well, I appreciate your time, Tyler. Thank you.
No problem. I'm glad
you. It was a good meeting. It was informative.
I know it's frustrating, and trust me, as a citizen, when I take off my hat and leave this office, I go down and I live in the Woodlands.
We just pay attention.
I'm with you, but I also know when I come in here, I have to look at what I can legally do and not do, and that's how we make our decisions. It's frustrating. The citizens, I understand. I understand that. I wish that we could we need some laws. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we need some help
Some
there.
definition, yeah.
Some definition.
So these, our representatives then would be the one that would write the law.
Correct. They
So
would
anyone
be-
else to add to the list
Sounds
that
Kevin and Tommy.
would have
I mean, those is where you could start. I mean, any of your
state
representatives.
and federal?
Well, now that Steve Toth's going to be in there,
Yes.
and
That's
Sarah
right.
K. Bailey Hutchinson.
Yeah. I mean, any of those folks in the area. Brandon Crichton, I know, is pretty active. He's somebody you could reach out to.
Brandon
and
Crichton.
he's pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
We have some good folks that, you know, and it may not even be, like I said, there was, you know, to get a law change, you have to have so many votes from throughout the state, and the problem is now a lot of these folks have got elected, you know, relying on this vagueness in the without definition, and so they're not going to be interesting to see. I mean, we definitely need to have the fight though. So
Well, and it would help to keep things clear and quit wasting your time saying, "Oh,
trust
people,
me,
this is."
But there's a lot of laws like this, like the law here a while back. I'm not sure where it stands now as far as carrying a weapon
right,
when you're traveling and
Right.
crossing county lines.
Yep.
People say, "Well, are you really traveling?" You know,
Right.
it comes down to interpretation.
right,
And
It's-
there's
it's probably the same
a
type.
million people to interpretate, right?
yeah.
How does I guess people like yourself view if you don't get a license to carry the concealed weapon, but based on the Constitution, you can carry it, right, without the license?
You can carry it in your vehicle, is what the law allows. I mean,
Yeah, not on your person, but
my
in your
personal opinion, if you're talking from that standpoint, I think you should be able to carry. Period. I mean, without any regulation. But I don't get to make the law. But the law allows you to carry it in your vehicle, to and from your vehicle. It can stay in your vehicle.
But you can't take it
cannot-
outside the vehicle?
You cannot carry it into a store concealed without a concealed handgun license,
Right.
or whatever. That's
So the vehicle is the only
vehicle is the
outside your home?
exception. Correct. Exactly. Exactly.
So far, we can keep them in
Can
our
you
home.
cross the lines with it in your vehicle?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Don't go to Canada,
But
though.
there are some states that don't.
California.
Don't
and
They don't
recognize it.
have what we call reciprocity, and you can find the list of states. I think it's about half and half. Some states you cannot carry them in your vehicle into there. I know some
Well,
people.
we carried ours to California.
And as long as you don't get
What
caught.
can we
As long as you don't
say?
get
No,
caught.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down
But it
to.
was
I'm
in the
from
trunk,
Texas.
so nobody looked.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get
I
caught.
mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I would probably do the same thing. To be honest, I'm not going to,
Go
leave my
across the
safety
country.
and my family to someone else. I mean, it's not worth it. If I have to go to jail for it, I guess that's what you do. I mean,
Well, I think it was on the news this morning, too, that this guy hit her. They went over there to exchange things, and he was being ugly and mean to her or something, and she pulled out
Yeah.
her gun
Yeah.
shot, and she
Is
had
that the one? Is that what happened?
she had a concealed weapon
yeah.
permit.
And what's crazy is that those types of stories never get as much play as the ones who,
Illegal,
the,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
gun goes off.
Yeah, right. Like the gun is the problem instead of the person behind
Right,
the
right.
gun, right. Well, thank you, Tyler. We
You bet.
appreciate it, and
Thank you for
we'll
I hope that
we'll
helps.
keep looking and acting, and we'll
y'all-
be involved. You might see us again sometime.
You might, you are doing a great job. And
Take a vacation with me.
Take a vacation.
no, that's all right. Hey, Nancy and I have had our disagreements, but we're all right. We're gonna be
That's
friends.
It's free speech in America.
That's right. That's what I said. I'm glad I was able to meet. So I appreciate meeting
Thank you,
y'all.
sir.
it was
Thank you.
nice
I appreciate it. I
And
understand.
y'all call up here anytime.
Thank
Seriously,
you.
I mean that. If y'all have questions about our office or what we do or concerns, call up here.
He may say later, I'm sorry I made
Oh,
that
I'm sorry.
statement.
Yeah, because
No.
Suzanne and I are good.
No, that's fine. That's part of what we like
Well,
to do.
it's our country, and we want it taken
Absolutely.
care of.
Well, it's time citizens get involved.
It is.
We've been sitting on the sidelines too
And
long. So.
I've been personally very impressed with what the Tea Party has done. I don't know if y'all are, I'm sure y'all might be members of that, active in that. I mean, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Keep up the good work.
so y'all
Thank
bet.
you.
Y'all have a good day, okay?
All right, thanks.